Welcome to the Who's Next Let's Go show. I'm your host, Mike motherfucking Johnson. I've been in 3 industries over the last 30 years, including real estate, automotive, and restaurant service. Each week, my guests and I will be sharing the stories that make us say, you can't make this shit up. So take a break from the mainstream bullshit and join me for another exciting episode of the Who's Next Let's Go show. Welcome to today's show, sponsored by who'snextletsgo.com and the Back Porch Brewing Company. Today we have a real estate guest from the company and the brokerage that I work for, and I'll tell you a little bit of introduction about him before we introduce him and how I met Bobby when I was first starting out in real estate. At the brokerage I work for, we have a bullpen area. When you first start, they throw you back there, and that's where you can do all your work, and it's got little cubicles in this bullpen area. And I'm back there, and Bobby's back there, and his now partner is back there, and she's a nice lady from up north who's retired educator. And so we're back there, and we're all minding our own business, and we're doing our thing, and we're working, we're on the computer, and I hear this god-awful noise come out of Bobby's rear end. It sounded like Chewbacca was coming out of his ass. So I'm like, well, that's the first one. I'll let that slide, because there's obviously a lady here, and you probably shouldn't do that in front of a lady. A couple minutes later, again, it comes out, it's roar, and I'm like, what the fuck? So I'm like, man, do you need a safety wipe? Did you just shit yourself? Are you okay? And he goes, well, I don't know, it must have been something I ate. I said, well, there's a lady here, man. Don't do that. So I'm getting heated up as he keeps doing this. A couple minutes later, he's giggling like a little girl, and he roar, comes out again. I'm like, what the actual fuck is going on? And then I look over, and the lady's snickering. Turns out he had this machine that was very realistic. And the whole time, I thought he was dropping ass back in the bullpen. And it turns out it was this machine. And once I saw her giggling, I knew something was up, and they got me with that one. That was how I met Bobby, and I was heated up right when I first met him. So without further ado, we're going to welcome today's guest, Mr. Bobby. Hey, Bobby, welcome in. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. And we also have my old-time favorite buddy, Mr. Mario. Get that pass away! Always going to have Mario here because he's funny, and when he laughs, it makes me laugh. So there you are. So, Bobby, I appreciate you coming in today, and I appreciate all the humor you pass around the office and get us through the day. Most offices that you go to in real estate are like morgues when you walk in. But when we go to our office, it's always a big party and a good time, and we still get our work done, but we still have a really good time, and that's thanks to big part in you. So hopefully you can share some funny stories with us today and tell us exactly some of the things that have happened to you. You've been in this business how long?
20 years.
So I'm sure you have plenty of stories of crazy shit that's happened to you in real estate. So why don't you share with us the funniest story that ever happened to you?
I've got a lot of funny stories. That's a problem. I don't think I have a favorite one.
So, and by the way, I am sorry to interrupt, but I am going to have some questions after these stories.
Oh, yeah.
Because inquisitive minds got to know. And I've never heard these stories, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, I've got so many ones. I've got short stories, long stories, everything else. But I wrote down a lot of notes and stuff like that to look at exactly different stories. I have so many, it drives me nuts.
Is that a long drive or a short putt?
Well, as a matter of fact, you say, long drive or short talk. One time when you're with people, you waste a lot of time with them and you know it and you're spinning wheels. Well, myself, I work on efficiency, okay? So I had to take this lady to go see homes for her brother out in Arcadia over and over and over. And it was wasting all my time and stuff like that. I had to meet him and all that. And I told her, why don't you drive with me and everything? So finally she says, okay, I'll do that and everything. She only rode with me one time because I was doing 110 to 120 miles an hour out to Arcadia. And I told her, I says, hey man, I'm hanging on the wheel. And I said, I'd like to drive fast. And she's like freaking out, just mesmerized. And I said, don't worry about anything. The only thing I worry about is if a hog, deer, or gator comes out in the road. That's it. And then we got there, we saw the homes, nothing was there. So I came back, and then basically after that I was dumped. So
she never rode your car again.
Never again. I never sold her brother a house.
You wanted to get done.
Well, I don't know about that. I'd take that money.
Yeah.
Did she tinkle a little bit?
Huh?
Did she tinkle a little bit?
No, not that I know of.
Not that you know.
She may have had it depends on or something.
Fair enough. So Is that the funniest story? Or
No,
I think there was one you told me about somebody actually
Yeah,
did shit in the car.
I've had all kinds of shit stories. I hate to say it in the real estate business, but I had one that was recent or whatever, and we took over a listing down in Punta Gorda, and the lady was in a nursing home and everything else. Well, we went in, there's shit on the floor, there's a hoarding situation. It's just the worst possible scenario. We had it all cleaned out, everything else. So the guy that was not part of the family, he was, he had the power of attorney and everything else. Well, the title company didn't want to accept everything he did, even though he had everything. So it came to the point where this title company said, you got to go down and see this woman. I've talked to her on the phone before, and you got to go down and see this woman. And I get down there, and at assisted living, they says, she might not have a good day here. And I says, well, what do you mean by that? And she goes, well, she's not really with it. I says, well, take me in there. I had all these copies of a form I had to have her sign. Went in there, she's totally out of it and everything. I swear to God, to get the job done, I was sticking a pen in her hand to get her to sign. We woke her up and I acted like a doctor. And then she signed, it was no good. I did it again, it was no good. I said, I'm done, I'm out, But we did get it sold or whatever, but that was frustrating.
I want to go on record that I had nothing to do with that deal. The legal department is scrutinizing this whole thing. I had nothing to do with that deal. That lady was half dead.
Well, matter of fact, the funny thing about it, I hate to say it's not funny, but we had to get this done. If we didn't, the whole process was sore, probate and everything else. She died 2 days after we closed the deal.
I think that's funny, Bobby.
Let me ask you this. Did you get your paycheck?
Yes, I did.
Then it's perfect timing on her part. She was looking out for you before she said, hey,
I don't know about that. She couldn't even talk. But, and then see, oh my gosh. I had a Irish woman. She came from Las Vegas. She had to buy a house in one weekend. Had to buy a house and everything. We went to all these houses in her price range, and there was spiders and webs and all. Well, she was deathly afraid of spiders. Absolutely deathly afraid. So sure enough, we get down at the end of the day, we go to the last house, the guy's in the shower, the guy yells out, you're here already, we're there 10 minutes early. And so we left and said, screw it. So we're going down the road, down Whitman Field up in Sarasota. Going down the front, and all of a sudden she starts screaming, holy hell, yelling and screaming, ah! I'm like freaking out. It's 5 o'clock traffic and everything. I pull over on the very first street I come to, and I say, what's wrong? What's wrong? And a beautiful woman too, I must say, the Irish woman. And sure enough, she says, get it off me, get it off me. And I look down and I said, what? And she's right there. And there's a spider crawling across her nipple on her breast. And I mean,
hold on. Did you oblige?
Let me tell you. I'll tell you the exact thought that came to my head was, man, I got to take care of this problem quickly.
Rightfully so.
So the first thing, I'm sorry, I'm a guy, but the first thing was, shall I use the whole hand smash? That might work. But I thought,
smash and grab?
Yeah. But I thought to myself, I ain't going to do that and stuff. So I did. I daintily went around. I says, I hope you don't mind. You won't feel nothing. And sure enough, I picked up a spider off her breast. So, and that ended that story, which was good. And she bought. Man,
I think you missed a golden opportunity.
No, I also had a listing appointment. And I had a listing appointment in a community in Welland Park. And sure enough, we're there. And the wife was here. My partner's here. And the husband's right past it. And I said, okay. And this woman, she was a little bit rounder woman, but she had gigantic tits. I'm sorry, but they were gigantic. And so she had this bustier.
Hold on. Mario's mom, we apologize again. Sorry, Mom. We're not responsible for Bobby's tit stories.
But proceed, Bobby.
But proceed. We're interested. We're just not responsible.
But she leaned over, we're interviewing and everything, and I'm looking at the husband the whole time, trying to keep eyes on him, because this woman's breasts were out on the table. You saw everything, the whole bra, everything, they were out there. And Diane's right across and looking at everything, and she'd tell I was uncomfortable because, I'm sorry, I'm a man, It's like, hey, but...
Hold on, I got verification. She's over here. Was he looking at her breasts, or was he looking at the paperwork?
He was trying to look at her husband's eyes. He was looking at the husband was looking at me all the time.
Well, you think the husband would have said, hey, honey, can you get your tits off the table?
Oh, my God.
You'd have thought.
You had no idea. They were huge. It was a difficult listing appointment. It really was.
Did you get the listing?
Yeah, we did. We did.
Did you sell the house?
Sold multiple homes for the family.
Oh, nice.
Which is really nice. It worked out. It worked out great, man.
You didn't miss any opportunity to have any listing appointments, or you were there for the inspection. Whenever they were there, you were there.
Oh yeah. I was there, and her tits were there. But I did have. I brought a prop in with me.
Oh. Fair enough.
So what happens is one of my famous stories or whatever, I met this guy and he looked real angry and everything, and his mom was with him. His mom was going to put down 20%, help him out, get a house, because his credit wasn't good. I don't care, let's just do this. So I ended up showing the mom everywhere, and she's a larger woman, very elderly, and I'm showing her properties everywhere. Now, at this time, there was properties everywhere where the electricity was out, all these bank-owned properties and everything else. So we're walking around doing all this. We're probably about, 3-4 miles away from where she actually lives, where they're renting a house. So sure enough, she looks at me and she comes to me and she says, Bobby, I might have a problem. I says, what's your problem? I says, what can I do? What can I do? And she goes, I've got a problem. I need a toilet. And I didn't see any toilet paper in there. I said, man, the toilet, it's well water, it's electricity, there's no power, they're not working, you can't use that. And she goes, well, I got a problem. I said, just hang on. Ran out to my car, because usually I used to have toilet paper, I'd have a garbage bag or something, but instead that day I cleaned out my car or something, and the only thing I fucking had in the back of my car was this. A little shop rag that was see-through, and I put that down on the seat, and I said, let's get in. I says, we got to get you home. And she goes, well, I might have a problem. And I says, don't worry, I'm going to get you home. We're going down this road, Minnesota Beach Road, and I'm doing 60 miles an hour, no lie, man. I am coming up to it and everything. I looked at her and I says, how you doing? Is everything all right? And she looked at me and said, faster. I turned on the 776. I had to go about 2 miles up, 1.5 miles, and I turned on there at 60 miles an hour, and I was doing over 100 miles an hour to get this. I come up to the road, and I get straight across, take her to the thing, and I'm starting to smell stuff. And I said, oh, this isn't good, man.
Oh, that's bad.
And I'm like, we pull up real quick, and she's looking at me. I said, as fast as I could. And then she opens the door and she goes, I'm sorry.
She shit in your car.
And sure enough, no, she started getting out and she started exploding. And I mean, it was terrible. It was terrible.
Old people dumps are bad.
Yeah.
Oh, no, let me tell you, the smell was precursor. I'll tell you that.
And I got a question. How come old people, that's all they talk about is money and poop? My grandfather's 95 years old, and all he cares about is calling me on the phone, bitching about how much something costs or he didn't poop today. Well,
and this woman was rich.
Well, rich people poop too, Bobby. I know you find that hard to believe.
But they did offer the go ahead and basically pay me back. Like, we'll have your car cleaned and everything else. Well, I had this rag and it smelled so bad I threw it out the window right by their driveway, and I thought, oh, that's terrible. She'll see it walking the dog tomorrow. She'll be embarrassed. I didn't want to embarrass her, So I went back and picked it up and took it down the road and threw it in another ditch. So, but that was, I did sell her house and everything, and that was, it worked out.
That was a pity sale? She pitied you, so she bought a house from you?
Yeah, but let me tell you, at least she did that. I had to sell the house later because she wanted her name off the title because her son never got his shit together. So that was a whole nother story. He was waiting for her to inherit, I hate to say it. But
what is the most shocking real estate story?
Well, I got a couple that tie in for shocking. Okay?
All right. Hey.
So
appreciate you bringing notes. Saves me all the talking.
I had an agent that I felt sorry for. I sell quite a bit of real estate. I do pretty good. I'm not a pushover. And so what happens is, this agent, I always kind of helped out. Always tried to do a favor for this, that, gave him some work to do and things like that. He had a wife that was from another country and everything.
Oh, I know who it is too.
And so sure enough, everything's going. So I would have him do me mailers. Well, that ended the first time because she was from another country in Africa that she didn't know how to address envelopes, and he didn't teach her. And they all came back like 100 some, envelopes and stuff, letters. So I says here, and also he's living, let me say this, he was living in my house, my old house, and paying me $1,000 a month, cheap rent, but I only collect it when he closed something. He didn't close many deals. He didn't do that. So one day I said to him, I says, you know what? Why don't you, I'll pay you, I don't know what I paid him, but let's say $100. I said, I'll pay you $100. I want you to put this listing in, do a really good job, and I'll let you do some of these tasks for me. So he put a vacant land in down in south of South Gulf Cove, the Sands or whatever. And all of a sudden, one day later, man, this is the worst neighborhood. There's not power out there and everything else. I get a call. Hey, I see you just listed that house, or that property, that lot. Have you got any phone calls? That's a nice lot. And I says, no, I don't have any phone calls. You're the first one. I says, you want to make an offer? No, I'm just thinking about it. I said, well, call back. Calls back the next day. Calls back the next day, calls back the next day. And finally I said, what the fuck is going on? Why is this guy? And I told him, I said, if you're interested, make an offer. He goes, nah, I'm just hold back. I don't know. Finally, day after day after day, I couldn't figure it out. So I go look up the land, okay? I go look up the line, I go to the pictures and everything. Well, lo and behold, he listed the wrong fucking property. Someone else's lot. I didn't have anything to it, no signed listing agreement, and he listed it. And here, so that was the guy that owned it and saw it that I had his property listed.
Oh, he was looking at his own property.
Right, saying, you get any leads, get any offers, how's it going, you know? We're gonna get this sold, you know, and everything.
He's like, that's a pretty nice lot.
Well, the thing is, that guy, you know, I felt sorry for him. I changed it. It was an easy fix, but it was like, Jesus, man, please. Oh, my gosh. Pissed me off, but I mean, you know, shit happens. Doesn't happen with me, though. But so what happens is that guy, in the meantime, he decided he wanted to buy my house there, okay? And I said, I'll sell it to you for $185,000 cheap. So he says, I'm going to get the money. I'm getting it from Africa. And I said, I don't care where you get the money. Just get the money. So he started getting this thing. And what it was an international money laundering scheme. And they were this true story. And they were getting stuff, money sent to Canada and sent to Europe, and they would get sent back and went to the United States. He shows me all this paperwork and all this stuff and acceptance, rejection, and this and that. And I mean, it's all this paperwork. And and it's like, you know, when you know, we had a king die and he put you on the will, somehow you're in the lineage. So this was, and it was like he was getting like $27 million and the house was $185,000. So I said, fine and dandy and everything. So I said one day and everything, and he had this other guy that lived in the house I found out about, and that was the big guy that the police and the FBI and everything were looking for. So all of a sudden I get a call by the FBI one day at my office. I'm in there and they say, hey, how's it going? I said, it's going fine. He goes, do you know this person? I said, I certainly do. And they said, well, what do you know about this, this, and this? I said, well, I know this, this, and this. And oh, do I know that person? Yeah, I've heard of that person. He's like the kingpin. So I gave him numbers, stuff like that. And he said, so where are you at now? And I said, I'm at my office. Come on down and talk to me. I'd love to talk to the FBI. I have no problem with that. And so they says, oh, where are you going? I said, well, I'm leaving here in an hour. I'm going to walk my dog at house. And then I'm leaving and I'm going back. So sure enough, I go to my house and I see a couple trucks on my yard and a car. And it looks like, you know, workers for the landscaping people. I thought, man, why are they on my yard? That kind of pisses me off. So I go in the house, I get the dog, I go out, he rolls around, does his thing, looks at people on the yard, says, motherfuckers, and then we go back inside. So I put him back in there, and then I'm leaving, and there's a cop car right behind my driveway. I thought, what the hell? So I'm reversing, and the cop car is not moving, and I can't reverse into him. I said, so I rolled down my window. I said, move, get out of my way. And so he proceeded and he went by. Well, in the meantime, I have an FBI agent running across my front yard with her FBI badge at me. And I said, what's up? And she looked at me and she goes, you know, everything you said is true. You came home, you walked. I said, yeah, what do you think, you know? So she says, you're no longer under investigation. We're getting you out of the investigation. I said, well, I'm glad I'm out of the investigation. I didn't know I was in one. So I gave him everything I could. So new neighbors just moved in like a couple weeks before. Well, before I got there, the FBI went around all the neighbors' houses all the way around. They started knocking doors, asking if they knew anything about me, where I lived, how I worked. Oh, it was all over, man. So my new neighbors come across the street for me, and they look at me, and the wife says, ask him. And the husband says, no, shut up. I'm not going to ask him. Ask him. I said, ask me what? I said, ask me anything. I said, what's up? And he goes, we want to know, Angie wants to know, why the FBI was here and everything, knocking on our doors. I said, knocking on your doors? I said, I didn't know that. And he says, they're knocking on all the neighbors' doors. Well, the neighbors didn't seem to look at me after that too much. No. They were worried about me. And I told my neighbor, I says, listen, I says, shit like this happens sometimes with me. It's just a natural phenomena. I says, but the thing is, I said, I'll tell you one thing about it. I says, they didn't have enough. That's all I said to them. They didn't have enough.
Now, I've known you for about 5 or 6 years now. I'm surprised you didn't really make up a good story, or at least act like you're on the phone calling in a hit or something. No. Like 251.
I've had the sheriff's department in my office ask me about a murder and everything. So I had to testify. Didn't have to go to court on it, but I had to, talk to the detectives about it. No, nothing. It was the guy that killed some woman in a motel down the street.
Oh, I remember when that happened.
And I saw him on the sidewalks. That's all it was.
Nice. Yeah.
Shit happens.
There's 2 people that have been killed in that hotel.
Oh yeah, and then
we need to move offices.
So I'm gonna look at in my notes here a little bit.
Have you ever seen anything shady in your years? Or
well, that FBI thing was shady as hell.
No, a real estate person did that was shady, like another realtor or a real estate company or a title company? Please refer to your notes.
Please.
I always have to.
My former partner.
My former partner. I'm sorry, Bobby, we have to interrupt this podcast.
Go for it.
FBI is on line 6 for you. We'll be editing this part out, Mr. Cliff.
Well, I wouldn't say, like, when it comes to like real estate agent,
Yeah,
I had a
gotta
real estate
rattle
agent.
this shit off, boy.
I had a real estate agent. I was going back and forth with the wife. The people were on fixed income and stuff, and then they wanted a house in the flood zone, the insurance, everything else. It was going to be too much, and so the lady was texting me, "Oh, do this, do that, do this," trying to tell me my job and stuff. And I finally got on the text message. I said, "Quit your bitching." I says, "I don't need this. You know, they're not going to interest in your house." And sure enough, because the owners were calling me, not that after, before them. So sure enough, she did that. Well, her husband called up and he says, "I hear you cussing out my wife. You cussing her out, calling her a bitch and everything else." And I have the text messages that showed, I didn't do that. And so he just started cussing me out over and over and over. "You motherfucker, you never worked this, that, this." And so I started on my prelude of, "Yeah, you're one of the stupidest person I talked to. You're dumber than fuck. Yes, very stupid you are. Oh yeah, idiot, And he finally hears me saying stuff and he says, "What'd you say to me?" I said, "You're the dumbest motherfucker I've talked to all this year. You're stupid and everything else." We went back and forth. Well, he bugged the broker. He bugged the broker for a couple weeks about that because he wanted to get me in trouble and everything. No, it's a different business. It really is.
You're still employed, so I'm sure that everything went just fine with the boss.
Oh yeah. I'm making money.
Now, when I was doing this with Kim and Emily a couple weeks ago, we talked about some of the most shocking things we've seen at like an open house or a listing, or what was some of the most, have you ever seen like drug paraphernalia or any sex objects or anything like that? Don't get too descriptive. This is a semi-family show.
My mom's watching.
And his mom's watching. Fine. But you can tell us if you've found something like that.
Yeah. Like when it comes to, I've seen quite a few grow homes and everything. And then where like you go in the kitchen and you go through a cabinet, like a pantry, and you go into another room and they have all this air conditioning venting through the house and everything. I got some good ideas, actually, to be honest with you.
For your own endeavor.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna do that now. And
That's some good ideas.
And then oh god, what was that other one? What was your question?
Have you seen drug paraphernalia? Any I am so shocked at how many people, and I'm not for pot, against pot, I can care less. If you want to smoke pot, do what you want to. But how many people actually try to sell their house and it smells like pot?
Oh yeah.
And they have no idea that it smells like you walk in and you're like, "Folks, can you do something about the smell?" You can smell that? Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
You walk in and it punches you in the face. Well, the house looks nice, doesn't it? Yeah, except for that smell punching you in the face.
Yeah.
So it's like 50% of the houses I go in smell like pot.
No.
Every bit. 50? 50%.
In Northport, maybe.
Well, I saw houses in Northport, Port Charlotte.
You mean it's only 50?
No, I had it one time when there was the boom and the bust and everything, and there was a million houses. Every house on the block was for sale. So I follow the rules all the time. I really do and everything. But there's sometimes you say, "Hey, you're with the buyers." And I had this elderly couple with me, really nice in the back seat, and they said, "Look at that house. That looks really nice." I looked at them. I said, "You know what? I could probably get you in there. Would you like to see it?" So they said, "Yeah, we'd like to see it." I go up there and I do the combo because all the combos were the same. Mm-hmm. Sure enough, it opens up. My people are saying, "Hey, you know your job good," and everything. I'm not supposed to be in this house. I don't have listing paperwork or nothing. So we walk in this house, and I swear to God, man, every wall was so crazy painted, like bright red. The ceiling was bright red. All the walls were yellow. The garage, it was a black ceiling and purple walls, and every room was like this. It was unbelievable and stuff. Well, in the meantime, they're walking around. And I said, "This needs a paint job." Oh my God. Well, there's beep, beep, beep. And they said, "What's that beeping?" I said, "Well, what beeping for is probably nothing. It needs a battery. Don't worry about it." So sure enough, it starts beeping a little quicker and everything. And then all of a sudden, it was an active burglar alarm. Yep. And it went off. Whoop, 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 whoop. And my buyer said, "What do we do now?" I said, "We leave quickly." We leave quickly, got into the car. I drove down the road, and sure enough, there's a cop car running with lights coming down the road, waving by. Hey! But that was
Two doors down on the left. Saw the guy enter. Ugly bastard.
Well, I showed up at a house one time. I showed up at a house in Port Charlotte, and sure enough, I hear noises in the house. I'm thinking, what is all this noise? I mean, it was rustling noises. So I'm going to open the door, and then I realized the door's been kicked in, the front door. So it was always totally kicked. Well, the people were in there robbing the house, and it was a house that was abandoned or whatever. So they were stealing all the appliances. Well, they moved all the appliances to the garage, and they heard us coming up and everything, and they hauled ass out the back door and left the back door open. So I called the agent, and I called, hey, you got a problem here, you're missing appliances. Yeah, no, they're there. I said, they won't be soon. But so that was different too. I mean,
Those
there's
were the
things.
days back then. It was crazy.
Oh yeah, the outside air conditioners getting ripped off, cut out, and everything.
What were they stealing in the air conditioners?
Everything.
No, they were stealing something some sort of metal.
Yeah, the copper.
Yeah, the copper. Yeah, they were
aluminum.
stealing all the copper and stuff.
drugs.
And then they were stealing stuff out of the trucks at the dealerships. What was that? The
Catalytic converters.
Yeah.
They're still doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Just shoot first.
Yeah,
Ask
just
questions later.
well, I mean,
I had another one. There's lawsuits sometimes that people in real estate, they do stuff. Well, quite a few years back, it was the big thing, the news, because we all get news in our offices, watch out for people falling, okay? Well, we didn't want no one falling or nothing, but sure enough, I had this guy, and his name was Lucky. Real name was Lucky. The guy moved a half a mile an hour per few minutes, okay? And he moved so slow, I had to leave 40 to 45 minutes for a showing, because it was 10 minutes up to the house, down the driveway, and then in the house. Well, he sees a house one day, he'll see in there and say, oh, I don't like this house at all. All right, let's leave. Let's get out of here. Get ahead of the schedule. He goes, no, I want to see what's in that room back there, Bobby. And he would have to go back there. So there's 20 minutes of wasted time. So one day he's in the lanai, and he says, well, I want to walk in the backyard. He can't walk. He's had a stroke. He can't use half his body. I said, let me take a walk back there. I'll tell you what I see. So I go all the way around the house and everything. I come around, and who's on his back in the lanai and the carport? Him.
Bobby took a dump.
He fell over or something. And I says, Lucky, I says, what are you doing down there? And he goes, I fell. And I started thinking it was a lawsuit, because I just met the guy. So sure enough, he got him up, picked him up and everything else. He was fine. He's embarrassed and everything else. I finally did sell my house down in Northport on a canal. And he says, I don't want a house in the flood zone. So I got him a house out of the flood zone. Well, Ian came. And guess what came in his house?
water.
The canal. The canal. And the canal came in and the floor, and he was there. He had to do what he had to do. But sure enough, the canal came down. He calls me a couple days later and says, Bubba, he says, I told you to sell my house, not in the flood zone. And I said, your house wasn't in the flood zone when I sold it to you. He said, yeah, but I got flooded. You told me the gates were corrected or controlled by Northport. I said, they were, but this is a catastrophic thing. He goes, well, I think I had flood insurance, but they're saying I didn't. Well, I sternly remember him saying, I don't want to ever have to buy flood insurance.
And he didn't.
Right, well, let me tell you, he regretted it then, He's still there, though. He's a nice guy. So I can't complain.
Where's he going to go? He's flooded.
Yeah, well, no, he got it all fixed finally, but he had to stay there. He had nowhere else to go. I sold a house in a community that I live in, and the guy, he had gold and all this stuff, really, really wild guy, and talking to him. And he's talking about all these 2-sums and 3-sums and 4-sums up at this, the KC Key fish house. And he's meeting all these women and everything. I think, this guy's crazy, man. And sure enough, I've
been there hold on. I've been to Casey
I've been-
Keys several times.
I have been there
I
too.
ain't never seen a 3-some or 4-some, and I've seen some ugly people going through there. I'm not so
I
sure.
don't know what he got up there.
I mean, some of
okay?
them people make a freight train take a dirt road.
Well, let me tell you, this guy, he had it going on, and he was wealthy. He was wealthy from gold and everything else.
He bought a 3-some and a 4-some.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, he
didn't
put it all together.
happenstance upon one. He bought one.
Well, he bought a house in Naples, and he said he had a model home. And then he said to me, and sometimes I'm stupid, and he said to me, he said,
Hold on. I just wanted to accept that fact that you said sometimes you're stupid. What the hell was that?
so,
Here you go. He brought the prop. He brought Chewbacca with him
Yeah, he's got a movie cushion back there somewhere.
somewhere. Oh, Jesus. Yeah, that was the thing. That was the first time I met you, and I'm looking at that lady right there, and I'm going, man, this is bad.
that was funny as shit, though. I did it, matter of fact, I did it to my partner's, I'll go back to that story in a second, but I did it to my partner's husband. I took him to a financial wealth, meeting. I says, come up here and you meet this person, you check him out and everything. So we're going down Bee Ridge Road towards 41 and everything, about a half a mile away, and I start messing with him. And and I do it, and he looks at me, and I look at him like, oh, I don't know where that came from. And sure enough, at that point, it starts going more and more and more.
Yeah.
Ah, you put it up there.
So sure enough, he's looking at me, and I could tell he's getting all nervous and everything. And so I said, don't worry about it, Dave. I says, I don't smell anything right now. It's okay. Don't worry. They're not smelling everything. Then I hit it again and again. And I said, oh, I got one. It's creeping now. And so I look in the mirrors. He's trying to put down the window, so I locked his window. And I said, Dave, I said, don't worry about putting your window down. I locked it. And he goes, what? He goes out and pushes it. You motherfucker, you locked my window. And so he starts opening the door, and I had no gas.
Were you on 75?
Huh?
Were you on
no,
75?
we're on 41. Right at 41, we got to that point.
What do you call it when you throw your voice?
A ventriloquist?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What do they? There's a term for that.
He's throwing.
Yeah, he's throwing his ass.
He's throwing his ass. Can we hold on? Can we get back to the threesomes?
Yeah. All right,
Okay,
fair
so
enough.
that guy was
Very good call. I like that.
That guy actually had a girlfriend that was moving down to Naples with and everything else and everything. And the life he talked about, I thought, geez, why are you giving up all that when you have this? But because to me, she was really nice and everything. But the way he was talking about all his, happenings, it sounded pretty exciting. But
You were living vicariously
oh,
through
let me
it.
tell you, I was living in my mind. But so that guy says to me one day, he says, so we're going to sell this, you're selling my house. He called me and he goes, so I'm going to make your lucky day. And I go, how are you going to make it so lucky? And he goes, you're going to feel great. And I said, how am I going to feel great? And he says, you're going to sell my house. I said, I feel lucky already. And I feel great. So we got to listen and everything, and he's moving out and everything. And he says, I'm taking the curtains and the rods and everything. I'm not thinking. He kept saying, it's all right to take the curtains and rods. Yeah. Well, these curtains and rods were specifically for that model.
Oh, sure.
And the curtains and rods are attached, and they stay with the house.
Yeah.
So he took them all down, and then finally I came by, and I said, no. Filled all the holes, everything. And he says, no, well, you told me. I said, no, I wasn't thinking, It was my fault. And so I had to get someone in there and hire someone and have them all put back up and everything.
What'd that set you back?
Huh?
What'd that set you back?
A little over $100. It wasn't bad.
That's not bad. That's not
It wasn't bad. No,
But you know what? I have a lot of folks that I have a local attorney that helps me with a lot of his probate business, and most of his clients have passed away, and they don't bitch about anything. They don't take the curtain rods. They don't bitch about nothing.
Right.
What price you want to sell? Oh, I agree. That's a good price because they don't say anything.
Yeah.
Right, just sell it for what?
That's a nice customer.
That's a great customer. They don't
Yes.
bitch about nothing.
No, that is
And
nice.
when we get an offer, we take it.
It's
crazy.
I've had customers, I don't know if you had them when, I've had them coming across at each other at the closing table. I had one where we had a final walkthrough. I had to send the seller out to Port Charlotte because I knew the guy coming was going to confront him and want to fist fight him. And my guy was 82 years old at the time. And this guy was, up there in age. But sure enough, he came and didn't see the crystals,
Chandelier?
No, Swarovski crystals, and everything came with the house, but not the personal stuff. And he had a thing with Swarovski crystals, and it's probably had a few $1,000s crystals in it. So the guy came in, saw him all miss, and starts yelling and screaming. My partner's there and everything. Where is he? I'm gonna kick his ass. This, that. He's gone. He's not here. All over these crystals. And he started yelling and screaming and everything else. And Diana says, I was here. The crystals don't come with it. It's personal and everything. Because I said they don't come. And he said, you weren't here. You didn't hear anything. And so we argued about all this, and then the wife comes up and says, where's this picture? We can't find this picture, because everything came with it. So I said, give me your phone. And I felt like saying, give me your phone, bitch. But I went around a couple of pictures. I saw where it was, found the picture in the bathroom on the door, and I took her in. I said, there it is. And then they said, okay, they bought the house, the guy died.
At least you're in a price point where they're arguing over crystals.
Yeah.
I'm in a price point when I sell a house that they're arguing over crystal meth.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. But I had teeth when I bought this house. No, you didn't. So I want to appreciate you coming out today, Mr. Bobby.
Yeah.
I appreciate everything you did. Some great stories. I also want to thank Back Porch Brewing Company for sponsoring today's
Excellent.
episode.
Very good
What do you guys
beer.
think
Yeah,
about the
yeah,
beer?
yeah.
Good
Nice
stuff.
beer.
Today we did the barley bean.
Very good.
8.5. Bobby makes sure he's good to the last drop.
Nice work,
Like-
buddy.
Hey, they're doing a great job over at Back Porch, and they're also open for their kitchen is now open. So please stop by and tell them Mike sent you. Thanks for coming out today. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Who's Next Let's Go show. If you want to hear more, you can catch new episodes on Wednesdays at noon, and all episodes will be on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. be sure to follow us on Facebook at the Who's Next Let's Go Show.